baby. We gotta win this one.
Out the jump, let's go. Let's go, man, let's go. Here we go.
This is about to be a lit day today.
Hey, let's get back to our swagger, come on.
All of them get the dough down. They get the dough down.
Okay, meet at the quarterback. Welcome inside the TCO studios for another edition of the Audible presented by 3M. Gabe Henderson here alongside Tatum Everett. Today we have the special privilege of being joined by the specialist of this Minnesota Vikings team. I'm going to start to the far left over here, Mr. Andrew DePaola, Vikings long snapper, and to his right is Vikings punter Ryan Wright. Fellas, how we doing today?
Awesome.
Doing good.
Great.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. I know, Andrew, it was your fifth time playing in your hometown of Maryland this past Sunday. But Ryan, this question is for you. What was Andrew's mood like going home for the first time in a couple of years?
Oh, he was excited to go home. He was able to see his brothers, his wife Amy was able to go out there to watch him play. So I think he was pretty pumped for the game.
I thought you were going to say food recommendations and
crab cakes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You didn't give me any.
No, I did not. I kept them all to myself.
Why is that?
The local spots, I want to keep them, I want to keep them hidden gems.
Were you able to go check out any?
No.
No,
we got in too late, so
Yeah,
just stayed at the hotel.
I'm sure tickets were you probably had to ask for extra tickets though, right? How does that work?
So like usually when I go back and play in Maryland, my parents kind of play interference with all the ticket stuff because they don't want people to hit me up. So they're just like, hey, everyone, just talk to us if you want tickets. So
the real MVPs.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, if you're a fan of the show, you know that we start this show off with a game called Two Truths and a Lie. You guys have already read your cards. Andrew, we're going to start with you. Ryan, it's up to you to figure out which sentences about Andrew are true, which two are true, and which one is a lie. Floor is yours, Andrew.
You ready?
Can I just call you Depot from here on out? Because that's what Coach Matt Daniels calls you. Can we just call you Depot? Okay.
Yeah, It kind of feels a little weird being called Andrew. So
okay.
I think this is going to be a little more natural. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. I opened up my own bagel shop called DePaola's Bagel and Brunch. Next one. After college, I began a seasonal shift in the winter of 2010 at Best Buy, where I offloaded trucks and restocked shelves. Next one. I am the only player in Rutgers history to be offered a football scholarship as a long snapper coming out of high school.
Third one's a lie.
Okay, that was pretty quick.
Very quick.
But you did open up your own bagel shop.
Correct.
Can you explain that?
A couple of years ago, my wife and I had moved to this little area called Kent Island in the middle of the Chesapeake Bay. And, kind of going to school in Jersey for 8 years, got used to having a nice little bagel sandwich in the morning. And there wasn't really anything like that in our area. So we looked into options at maybe franchising a place, bringing something to the island. And we were just like, you know what? Let's just start our own place. So my parents have a bar restaurant back home. They do breakfast on the weekends. Talked with them. We kind of came up with this idea to start our own place and just kind of jump in with both feet. So that's what we did.
I was going to ask you, the restaurant business seems like such a hard thing to break into, but you obviously have a background in it. Did you grow up around that environment?
Sort of, yeah. My dad had a couple bars when I was a kid growing up. It wasn't very conducive to having young kids at the time.
Fair.
So he got out of that business, and then I guess he always had a niche to get back into it. So 2012, they opened up bar restaurant, and still have it.
That's crazy.
What about the restaurant industry interests you?
Interests me?
Yeah.
Well, my dad enjoys cooking. He's
Okay.
a great cook. He likes entertaining. He likes talking to people. He likes chopping it up. I think that's kind of what really draws him to it. Me, I just saw a need and wanted to fill that need. So,
On you, Ryan, because I got some more questions for you, Andrew, but I want to make sure we get to your two truths and a lie.
All right.
oh man,
Are you ready?
yes.
First one. I was ranked the 47th best pro-style quarterback, as well as the 4th best punter in high school after my junior year.
Okay.
Second one. I went to a Division II school to play quarterback for a semester before transferring to Tulane University during my freshman year. Third one. I'm one of 4 punters in the NFL today that has 0 touchbacks.
Okay. Kind of gave him some easy ones for me. I'm just gonna go with B.
You right?
Okay, good. All right.
That was a lie.
There you go.
But you almost chose a Division II school over Tulane, right? How did your story come about?
So after my junior season, I was given that quarterback ranking, and I was drawing a little bit of interest, but I had to make a tough decision after my junior season to focus more on punting, and obviously it worked out. But after my junior season, some smaller schools like Puget Sound, I think, and I want to say Cal Poly gave me some walk-on opportunities to go play quarterback, but I chose punting.
It's amazing. You learn so much about your teammates on this show. I mean, gosh.
And one thing I was reading, because Depo, you went to Rutgers, and Andrew, I called you Andrew. Ryan, you went to a camp at Rutgers as a punter, but they had you come throw passes. Can you explain that story?
Yeah, I went to go to their punting camp or specialist camp, and pretty much how it was going to happen was the best punter there was going to be offered. That wasn't the case. They ended up going the Australian route, and actually they got a great punter in Adam Korsak. But yeah, they had me go down to their stadium. What's their stadium called? It's you don't even know. Okay. But yeah, they had me throw a few routes to them, and I thought I threw well.
No, it's interesting that you guys both have quarterback backgrounds as well. I mean, we've seen you throw a pass already this season. Will we ever see anything? I doubt it.
I mean, you see me snap. That's like kind of similar, you know, throw between your legs. But as far as downfield, I think I can confidently say no.
Probably not. Probably.
How was that transition? I guess I'll start with you, Andrew. Making that decision. I love this position. I've played this position for however many years, but this is where I can see longevity.
I mean, if I'm being honest, I didn't see the longevity. Like, it wasn't me. I think, so my coach at the time in college, he kind of had the wherewithal and the vision to be like, hey, this is something you can pursue and, possibly play for a long time at the next level. And, being a kid at the time, you're just like, yeah, okay, whatever. And I only did it for 1 year in college, so I didn't really know it was an option at the time, but.
What did you do the other 3 years?
So I was recruited as a quarterback.
Okay.
I did that for 3 years. My 4th year, I was a receiver. If you can believe that.
Wow.
And then my 5th year, I was a snapper.
Transition was actually kind of tough because I did go straight into punting from quarterback. I think it kind of hit me when I played in the Blue-Gray All-American game as a punter. I was kind of a little too fiery, had that fiery quarterback side of me still, wanting to be out on the field. But reality hit me when I was like, oh shoot, I'm only going out there 5 times a game now. But love what I do. Miss quarterback a little bit, but I definitely saw longevity in punting.
He's still fiery, by the way.
I was gonna say, do you still feel
He's
that
still
fire?
Dude, when he hits a good punt, we do the whole little handshake headbutt thing, I run away from him because he headbutts too hard. I'm like, I can't do it. I'm like, good job. I just run away.
Yeah, that fiery side of me probably just won't ever go away.
Really?
Yeah.
And I love that because the special teams unit plays such a big factor in changing momentum, changing swings of the game. But what makes a good punter or a good long snapper in the NFL? What are some traits?
Consistency. I think that's kind of the name of the game these days. You got to be consistent in both your distance, your location, and your hang time for punting. And you can speak a little bit about snapping.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really go into the physical part just because there's a ton of guys doing it in the league that are so physically different. I just think it's a mental thing. I think your mental approach to the game, who you are as a person. Great thing about Ryan is he's just so even keel and just having fun out there. I mean, he's like, you are a kid, but he's just a big kid on the field, having fun. And I feel like I'm the same way. I'm just out there having fun with my buddies, throwing it between my legs, him hitting great punts, and then I'll try to get down there and cover. I do the best I can, but I don't get down there as some of those other guys. But I think it's just your mindset when you get out there.
I mean, you mentioned the age difference, or that he's a kid, which you're not, but that's okay. But you said the age difference, and what have you learned from Andrew that you've been able to apply to your rookie year now?
Coming into the league, I think the volume of punts that I would hit in a day is way too much. I think the main thing that I've learned from him is I don't need to do that much. I just need to hit a few each day and just kind of rely on that muscle memory. And that'll end up being better in the long run because it's a longer season than it is in college. And just some different things, whether it's just personal life or on the football field or finances, he's been doing it for a bit, and he's been a really big mentor for me.
Don't swing out your shoes is something that you always say, Andrew. What do you mean by that when you tell Ryan, don't swing out your shoes?
Yeah, so when you really gear up and you try to hit a big ball, you're like, I want to hit a 70-yarder, 5.5 hang. It never works out that way, right? You know, you get too into it, come off the side of your leg. Ryan is just so strong and powerful that his 60, 70, 80% ball is going to be better than most guys in the league. So if he can kind of just stay compact and just straight up through the ball, you're just going to get, I mean, top 3, top 4 punters in the league as far as number-wise go. So I just try to tell him to stay in that range, and he's going to hit a great ball, and he's been doing a great job.
Seeing him at camp, did you expect to see this in the season?
You can be honest.
In a sense, yes. I think when you get to this level, your eyes can deceive you. For me personally, it's my ears. When I heard him hit a ball, I was like, this is different. I mean, it just sounds different coming off of his foot. So I think that's carried over into games tremendously. I think we saw it in a Denver game where he just broke out and was just, I mean, booting ball. I mean, how far was your longest in that game? 70-something? Then you hit the 74 against Miami, which was not at altitude. So, I mean, you know, his numbers so far have been speaking for themselves. So, yeah, I could have told you this was going to happen.
Well, what's going to happen right now is we're going to go to break. And then when we get back from break, you guys are going to stay on the show, and we're going to make sure we have another segment for Vikings fans who are tuned in. So don't turn the dial. The Audible will be right back. We are back. This is the Audible presented by 3M. Gabe Henderson, that's Tatum Everett. We got Ryan Wright on the show, as well as Andrew DePaola, a.k.a. Depot, Viking specialist. Right before the break, we were talking about the 73-yard field goal you kicked against Miami, Ryan. You don't see that every day. And I think the big thing that Matt Daniels said was the hang time on the ball was like, okay, when is this ball coming down? Like, that's just elite punt status. When you kick punts, where you punt punts like that, what changes as far as expectations go, as far as from your coaches?
I don't think the expectation changes at all. I think they've seen me do this multiple times in game and in practice. So it's just a matter of like, when's it going to happen next? But funny thing about that 73-yard punt in Miami, it was actually a recipe for disaster. I was lined up 2 yards too deep. So if you actually go back and watch it, I was walking up while the snap was coming.
Oh, wow.
I was focused on trying to improvise my steps, so my drop wasn't the most clean. Laces were facing down, so I had to twist my arm a little bit like that, and it honestly, if I'm being perfectly honest, it was a miracle that it happened.
Man, if that's the case, man, you need to continue to do that. 73 and 75, like, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Gabe mentions the coaching staff, and this is first year for Matt Daniels as your special teams coordinator. When I spoke to Greg a couple of weeks ago, he said that he gives you guys the freedom to expand on your talents. It's a very Greg quote, but what do you think of what Greg says as he describes Daniels like that?
I think that's a perfect quote, and I don't believe Greg said that.
He did.
Did he really?
I went back and listened to it.
Wow. I mean, yeah, that's a perfect quote. You know, the great thing about working with Matt so far, Coach Hat, is he hasn't tried to change anyone. He's just tried to help the best side of you come out and you know, really be there for game days, which has been awesome. He really listens to you. He'll just be like, hey, what do you do best, and how can we help you do that every single time? And that's just been one of the best things. I mean, there's numerous great things about working with him, but that's just one of the many great things.
It's so important to get guys to buy into special teams, not just the special, obviously that's what you do, but to get the other guys on the team to get involved, and that's something that Coach Hat does so well. How does he get guys to buy in and make this something they want to do, to take pride in that facet of the game?
Obviously, I'm a rookie, so this is my first special teams room, but one thing that's stuck out to me is it's a family in that special teams room, and one of the big things that Hat wants us to be able to do is to rely on the guy next to you when it matters the most. And all of us trust each other. We're building that chemistry each and every day, and I think that's been one thing that's helped us a lot.
Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it starts with KO, Coach O'Connell. I mean, he makes it a point of emphasis to be the best we can be on special teams. He doesn't gloss over it. He doesn't skip over it. He doesn't take away time from meetings or practice. He really makes it feel like it is because it is, you know, a big deal. he reiterates every week how we can change the game. We can win the game or lose the game on special teams. You know, we like to say we're 1/3 of the game. So, you know, I really think it starts with him, and then obviously getting the right guy, which was Hat for the job, and just going from there.
Yeah, going from there, Andrew. Well, Ryan, for you, I was just looking at doing some research on just like, you know, you punting, like certain games and certain and whatnot. And I've always wanted to ask a punter this question. Like, what is your mindset when you don't have any punts in a game?
It's a great day. It's a great day. Anytime I'm not out there punting the football is a good day for our offense.
Okay.
So you got Buffalo coming up next. I went ahead and started looking at the weather report because I just wanted to know how many jackets I needed to bring. But it's not going to be that cold, surprisingly. But the wind, 10 to 20 miles an hour. What kind of effect can that have in Sunday's game?
I mean, it'll affect the direction of your punting. It could affect messing with the ball a little bit on field goals. Doesn't really do too much for the snap. I usually try to err into his body more on field goals when it's a little inclement weather, and then for punts, my mindset is once it's out of my hands, it's his problem.
Yeah, and as far as punting, like the only thing you can do is just kind of go with the wind, whichever way the wind's blowing, and if it's one way to combat that is to have a lower drop and kind of drop that front nose of the ball down. Other than that, you just kind of do the same thing.
Andrew, this is, I think, a two-part question. What changes, does anything change, or what changes when it comes to snapping for a field goal versus snapping for a punt? And with that, does it changes, like what changes by player? Because you've long snapped for so many different punters and so many different kickers. So how intricate is that?
So I mean, with long snaps, right, your stance is a little more narrow because you want to get a little bit more speed on the ball. You don't have to be as finer tuned, I want to say, with, you know, you have a bigger target, you know, a bigger area to throw it at, so you can kind of be a little more off, I want to say. But with field goals, for me, you get a little bit wider stance because you want to be a little bit more precise, almost like throwing darts. You're really trying to get it into a specific spot. I'm really trying to take as much off him as I can, you know, with having the laces out, having it in a good spot where you can just kind of catch it and put it down on the spot, and that's really it for him, you know, like kind of take all the guesswork out of it. So there's like a few finer things that go into it. And then, you know, as far as snapping to different guys goes, you know, you got taller guys, shorter guys. It's usually a little bit easier snapping to the bigger guys just because every snap looks better, so to speak. And then for field goals, it's just getting with them and working with them to where they catch it so that the laces can kind of be pointing out a little bit. I try not to be too hot with my snaps. I try to make them catchable and easy enough to just catch and put down, because if I can give him a catchable ball, he can speed up his operation, then everything can go a little bit quicker, versus if I threw a laser back there, he's got to make sure he's got it secure first and then put it down. So that's kind of where things differ.
So there is like an art to snapping a ball and having the laces a certain way. Wow. Like, is that like you holding onto the seams at first? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give you all my secrets.
Okay, cool.
But you know, it starts with your grip, you know, and then figuring that out. And then from there, I don't mess with the grip after that. I mess with my feet. So either moving up, moving back. It changes if we're playing on turf versus playing on grass. Then it comes into the ball, you know, how grippy is the ball? You know, grippy, is that even a word?
We just made it one.
But there's a ton of factors that go in. You know, could be wet this weekend, humid game. I mean, all those factors come into play when it comes to snapping, for me anyway.
With the start that you've been having, Ryan, and this team's been having, what do you think is something that you can improve on?
I think the number one thing that I can always improve on is the location. You want to get it as close to the sideline as possible, and obviously that's very difficult to do every single time, and there's a lot of factors into that as well. I think that, and just cleaning up my hands a little bit too. Like I said, that 73-yard punt was a recipe for disaster, and just cleaning up those mental errors, and I think that'll definitely clean up my game a little bit more.
What is cleaning up your hands for those that don't?
Yeah, it's just catching it out in front of you, getting a clean spin so you have the laces in the exact position you want to drop it at. But yeah.
All right, because we talked, because earlier before you said your hands, and I'm like, dude, if you do that with your hand every time before you punt and it's 75 yards, I am a fan. but there is a such thing called outkicking the coverage. Can you explain what outkicking the coverage is?
Yeah, so you want to have a distance that matches the hang time. In college, one of my special teams coaches actually broke it down into like a math science or whatever, but it's a 1.0 ratio. You want to have, let's say, 45-yard ball, you want to have a 4.5 hang time. If you hit a 50-yard ball, you want to have a 5.0 hang time. And you just try to get consistent enough to where the hang time and distance matches every single time.
Wow.
I didn't think we were going to get into like the physics of it.
This is math class. This is math
really
and science.
Interesting. This is good. No, I think that's a really interesting point that there's, we see what you guys do in and out of the game, but there's not much talk about the thought process or the art behind it. Is there, Andrew, I'll start with you. Is there one misconception about what you do that really just bugs you?
Man, that's a good question. I mean, I guess it's just the position overall, right? I mean, you kind of read like long snapper is the easiest job on the field, right? If you want to get in the NFL, just be a long snapper. And I'm like, it's kind of a little more difficult than that. There's a little more that goes into it, Like I kind of just explained the whole punt versus field goal thing. On field goals, you just have to be kind of so precise and accurate. But then at the same time, you still got to block. You still got to get your head up. You got to block. You got to know who you're blocking. So.
Or they can jump over top of you and get a flag.
Or they can try and jump over top of me. Oh, and then land on me. That was just not fun. Not fun at all. But yeah, I think that kind of one just kind of irks me, bugs me the most.
What about you, Ryan?
Pretty similar, just the position. Obviously, it's not the most physically difficult, but it's definitely a hard thing to do, punt a football. And it like a lot of people think, oh, I can go punt a football, but it takes years and years of repetition to build up that muscle memory to be consistent with it.
I think the thing too, touch on about our position is it's a lot of gray area, right? So like he could hit a great punt, and then the returner could get 30, 25-yard return. So it's like, it doesn't look that great, but at the same time, he still hit a great ball.
Yeah.
So I think there's kind of some gray area there when it comes to judging both of our positions.
Man, well, hopefully fans who judge this show judged it the way Tatum and I did, because you guys were phenomenal today. I appreciate your time. I feel like we can talk to you guys all day, every day. But for our viewership, we have to end the show on this point. So for Tatum Everett, Ryan Wright, Andrew DePaola, my name is Gabe Henderson. Thank you guys again for tuning into another edition of The Audible, presented by 3M.